Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the BetRivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We are live on the Mike Francesa channel, on the BetRivers Network, on YouTube, and we will periodically be here during the summer, and then when we will be here extensively once we hit the football season, which the days are ticking away to training camp. So before you know it, we'll be talking NFL. We'll be talking college football, which has changed dramatically again this season. I mean, it has gone through such incredible reorganization. And college athletics, and we'll do something on this before the season starts, has changed so radically. It has chased so many coaches out of the business, prominent coaches. The NIL is so screwed up. The whole system is in such disarray that the changes are just beginning. I mean, there's more coming. I mean, there's things coming that people do not want. It's going to be a very, very different world, and it already is, and it will continue to be. Now, right now, we are days away from the All-Star break. We are watching as the Yankees continue to slip slowly in the East, losing again last night in Tampa. They are 6-17 in their last 23. Every day we add another L. They now are just 17 games over 500. Cashman's with the team, which is no big deal because he was going to Tampa anyway. He's in Tampa. So he went to Tampa a couple of days early. Big deal. He's going to Tampa anyway for what's going on this weekend. So he had to be in Tampa anyway. Hal's in Tampa because he lives there. So it's not a big deal that Hal's with the team or Cashman's with the team. And it's not going to make anything happen quicker. It's not going to make them come out of their slump more easily or anything else. He's not there to motivate. Yes, he's there to analyze, but he can do that on television. And he sees what we see, and that is everything that was right with the team in the beginning of the season is now wrong with the team. And the question you ask now, this has become a slump of such enormous proportion and such wide-ranging impact that the question you ask now is, which was the real Yankee team? The team you saw early in the season that was dominating, or the team we have seen now for a month? We haven't seen this team for a bad 3 or 4 days. Yes, they have injuries, but Judge and Soto are in the lineup every single day. Their pitchers aren't missing starts. They lost Stanton, which was sizable, and they lost Rizzo, which the one position where they're getting offense is Rizzo's position, where Rice has come exploding in the last couple of games. Now, who's the real Rice? We don't know yet. His first 33 at-bats, he had no home runs, 2 RBIs, basically flipped some base hits into the outfield, had decent at-bats, struck out now and again, took some walks, showed no power, and then in his last 27 at-bats, he's hit 5 home runs and knocked in 12 runs. And now you're hearing him mentioned in the same breath with other Yankees who came out of the gates with big power surges. Kevin Moss. Okay? Sanchez. Spencer. Guys who had legendary implosions early in their career. Now, none of them became great Yankees. Sanchez was considered destined. I remember doing a signing with him when I was still at the Fan. I did the first public signing at the Hard Rock with Sanchez, where we did an hour interview in the morning. People jammed in there. There was like 500 people jammed in to ask him questions and to meet him. And then he did a signing afterwards. And he was like a rock star because he had come out of the box. You know, here was a catcher who was pounding home run after home run, tape measure job after tape measure job. And What happened? He's long gone. So it doesn't prove anything. But what you say right now is at least Rice is giving them some at-bats. I mean, that was a heck of an at-bat he had last night. You're in a 4-1 game. They bring in a lefty with a runner on first base to face him. You know he's going to get a good pitch to hit because he's batting in front of Soto and Judge. And what happens? He turns a lefty around and hits it into the seats. Now, not a lefty who's good against lefties, but still, he took a lefty fastball and turned it into the seats for a home run. Made the game 4-3. Yankees gave up a bad run in the 8th inning and then went quietly into the ninth. Lost again. See, this team wasn't winning when Judge was hot, and right now Judge isn't hot. He's had 1 home run in July after having 25 home runs in May and June. May was really the divider for a lot of these guys. June was great for Judge. Judge and Soto has been consistent all year. Even last night, he took the ball almost out of the park with a man on in the last inning. He didn't get all of it. He died on the track. That was the last out of the game. Judge has 1 home run in July. He hasn't had a whole bunch of hits. He hasn't had a whole bunch of RBIs in July. He had to have cool off a little bit. He was putting up ridiculous numbers, and they weren't winning when he was putting them up. Verdugo has 2 homers since May. Volpe has no homers since May, has hit 173 in his last 30 games, and has a 200 on-base percentage in his last 30 games. He doesn't steal bases anymore, and he doesn't walk. That's why he doesn't bat leadoff. You couldn't keep him in a leadoff spot. He had under 200 on-base percentage. No Stanton until after the All-Star break. Rizzo, if Rice keeps hitting home runs, Rizzo's going to have trouble getting his job back. That's just the way it goes. And the pitching is awful. Well, Don can't get out of the first inning. Ever. Last night, again, gives up a couple of hits, then gives up a 3-run jack, and now he's down 4 in the first inning. The Yankees are behind every single night, and when they're not behind, like Friday night, they give up a 2-run homer in the 9th and a 2-run homer in the 10th. Well, Devers takes him out of the ballpark on Saturday, even though they lost that game. They won that game, rather, and then Sunday gives up, hits 2 homers. They can't do anything right. Their pitching has completely imploded. Holmes has been terrible. How he made the All-Star team, I have no idea. In his last 6 innings, he's given up 11 hits and 8 runs in his last 7 appearances. So the pitching was pristine early in the season. The only thing that's happened in the last couple of days that was positive, well, Rice has been a positive. The only other thing that's been a positive was Heel pitched well on Sunday night. After having 2 or 3 really bad outings in a row, he pitched well on Sunday night, giving up the home run to Devers, who he shouldn't have been in the game against. So this team now has the Red Sox breathing right down their back. They're 4 games in the loss column behind the Orioles, who lost last night to the Cubs. They're 4 games behind the Orioles, who they'll see Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They've already lost 5 out of 7 to the Orioles. They can't win in the division. They already lost last night. They have 5 games left before the break. If they have a week like they had last week, where they got swept by the Reds and lost 2 out of 3 of the Red Sox, if they have another 1-5 week this week, they're gonna crawl into the All-Star break, and they're going to be 6 or 7 games behind the Orioles in the loss column. And they could be tied with the surging Red Sox by the time the week ends. That's how bad things have gotten. They need to be turned around right now. Is the team pressing? Absolutely. Bright spots. LeMahieu's had 5 hits in his last 10 at-bats, has looked better. Hit a ball off the wall, got a 9th inning base hit last night. Looks a little more lively. Nothing to write home about. Torres is back. He had an RBI single in the first. They need to get him going. Now, this team needs a lot. It can use a starting pitcher. It desperately needs a back end of the bullpen guy. And it can use a versatile bat. It doesn't need Guerrero. It doesn't need a righty slugger. They have Stanton to back up. They have Stanton to back up Judge and Soto. They don't need a big thumper at a big price. They don't need that. They could use a jack of all trades player who can play multiple positions and give them some play on the infield and a live professional bat. I mentioned McNeil. He'd be very good for them. I don't expect the two teams to make a trade, although the Mets need so much help in the bullpen. Yes, they got a pitcher from the Rays yesterday, but hey, Rays aren't giving them anything that they really want. Anything they want to keep, you didn't pry anything away from the Rays. But the Mets need 2 or 3 relievers. They're in the bullpen every night by the 4th inning or the 5th inning. They have to supplement what has become a very good, very long lineup. The way Nimmo's hitting, now with Lindor hitting, with what they get at catcher, with what they get at first base, with what they get with Martinez, with what they've gotten from other key guys who have stepped in and done a good job. You know what? They have plenty of offense right now. They're scoring runs. They continue to give up runs on a scary basis, even last night again. Blowout. Before you know it, they got 5 runs out of the bullpen. Quintana goes 7, boom. Here comes the bullpen. Home run, 2 runs, 3 runs, 5 runs. They need bullpen help in the worst way. They need numbers. They need to bring them in by the truckload. That's how many guys they need out of the bullpen. That's how scary it is for the Mets, who can stay in this thing, which will be a sprint once we come off the All-Star break. They can stay in this thing in what is a very mediocre National League. Very mediocre. You have the Phillies, you have the Dodgers, and you have everybody else. Braves aren't the Braves. And the Mets can compete for the wild card. But they have got to have a big... You'd like to get Singer back. You got to get something substantial out of Diaz. And you got to go out and find a couple of relievers who can get somebody out. Because right now they can't get anybody out. That bullpen is scary. Now, as we finish up these days towards the All-Star break, and it's baseball, and more baseball, check out the BetRivers MLB midweek same-game parlay profit boost. Add more value to the midweek MLB slate with BetRivers midweek same-game parlay profit boost each Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Log into the BetRivers app, claim your profit boost, then apply it to the same-game parlay of odds of plus 100 or longer. Each leg must be minus 200 or longer odds to qualify for the promotion. Depending on your loyalty level, you'll get a boost of anywhere from 25% to as much as 100% rather. You can get dollar for dollar. Visit the BetRivers app for full details and get your midweek same-game parlay boost. So check that out, as baseball is the game right now, unless you like tennis. Now, we know the Yankees are going to be active, trying to make moves. They're going to try and get healthy. Sooner or later, they got to play better ball. You got to believe that. But the question you're going to ask now, and you got to ask it honestly, is this the Yankees, or was that team we saw early in the season the Yankees? Because they're two different teams. As for the Mets, they look like a 500 team right now, but 500 is going to keep them in the race. They don't have quality starting pitching. They don't have a good bullpen, but their offense has really clicked because they've gotten some young players to really contribute. And Nimmo's taken a step up. I mean, He's had homers the last 2 days now. He's got 15 home runs. He's got 58 RBIs. He's had a terrific year. Lindor has found a home in the leadoff spot and now has 16 home runs. He's going to put up his numbers, Lindor, as he always does. And he plays every day, as does Alonso. They play every day. That's a quality you have to give to them, is that they show up and play every day. But this team desperately needs bullpen help. Now, one story that I'd say has been kind of buried because it's still a ways away, but it really was a shocker. And that was Keegan Bradley being named the Ryder Cup captain. I mean, you talk about a stunner that came out of nowhere. I don't care if you're the most clued in golf person in the world. No, if I had given you 5 guesses, if I'd given you 10 guesses, no way would you have put Keegan Bradley anywhere in the conversation. So how does he get the job? I think they wanted to shake things up once they couldn't get Tiger Woods to do it. Now, you've heard different things about why Tiger Woods didn't do it. I'm going to leave those alone because I don't know which one's true. Have I heard different things? Yes. But it doesn't matter. The bottom line is he didn't do it. Did I think he would do it? I did. Because I think it's a home run. I think it was an easy way to have a big Ryder Cup victory. First of all, the American team's looking for revenge. Secondly, Bethpage Black is made to order for the American big hitters. Third, the European team's going to come here. The American team's looking for revenge after being embarrassed. And the last thing these guys want to do is come here and play in New York. They know the crowds are going to be a pain in the neck, and they are. I mean, they really are. And they got some guys who can be sensitive. Rory, Rahm, okay? So it's set up for a big American rebound. It's the perfect course because it's made for bombers. So that means if you're Keegan Bradley, you don't shut down the live guys because you want DeChambeau. You want Koepka. And depending on how he's playing, you might want Dustin Johnson because he's made to order for Bethpage Black, where you have to be a big hitter to survive. That course is made for the bombers. It's not made for guys who want to, move the ball around the course and be accurate. It's not what it's made for. You got to have major length to play that course well. And Keegan Bradley is a St. John's guy, so he knows New York. He knows every inch of Bethpage Black. Now, what kind of motivator and leader will he be? I have no idea. But as long as he picks the right team, that won't matter. Pick the right team. The American team's going to be motivated. They're going to be behind huge crowds of rabid fans. And they have a huge advantage at Bethpage Black. Now, not to say that the Europeans don't have some long hitters. I mean, Rory can hit it with anybody. We know that. So can Rahm. But the American team's loaded with them. Scotty Scheffler bombs it. Tony Finau is a lock for that team. I mean, you just line up the guys if you watch golf who really... Now, most of the pros hit the ball pretty far, especially with the new equipment and everything else. But we're talking about the guys who really take it and really rip it. Like the DeChambeaus of the world and the Tony Finau's of the world and the Scotty Schefflers of the world. So to me, when I first heard it, I was like, Keegan Bradley. Not exactly a guy you think of when you think of Ryder Cup. What you think about him is being snubbed from the Ryder Cup or being Mickelson's partner that one year where they had trouble with Watson because they benched him after they were playing well. He's never been on a winning Ryder Cup team, and he was really upset that he wasn't on the last team, and he considers himself an outsider in the golf world. So from that standpoint, maybe that's a good thing. Rather than have a guy they all love, rather than have one of their guys who would be really popular in the room, maybe a guy who doesn't care if he ruffles some feathers is the right guy to have right now for this year. The key is pick the right team for Bethpage Black and make sure they go there and play the course and are dedicated to playing the course and get used to the course. And if they do that, the Americans are going to win. Now, he said the right things. I'm going to go get every bit of knowledge I can from the old guys. I'm going to give Tiger Woods any role he wants, which is good because Tiger doesn't want a big role. He just wants to be treated like he's Tiger, which he is. So there's no reason not to treat him that way. Mickelson doesn't count anymore because he's an outcast. But you go to the Live and you take DeChambeau and you take Koepka. And maybe because it's Bethpage Black, you take Dustin Johnson if he's playing well. You're not afraid to take Live players. And obviously, you know who the big guys you're taking on the American side. So the fact that it's here and the crowd will be so rabid and you're looking for revenge and it's a course that really plays to the Americans, I think it's a good choice. He knows New York. He's a St. John's guy. He's a Northeast guy. He knows the area. He knows the course. And don't be afraid to ruffle feathers. Don't be afraid to get on these guys. Don't be afraid to push them a little bit. Don't make friends. Win. Which is what I'm sure they told him. Don't worry about making friends. You're not one of those insider guys anyway. You're not hanging out every day with Spieth and Justin Thomas and all those guys. Don't worry about that. And Ricky Fowler. And so you're not one of their group. So what? You don't care. Just pick the best players and go out there and win. That's what it's about. So from that standpoint, you know what? The more you think about it, the more it's sunk in after the initial shock, which it was for everybody. And a lot of people are going to lambaste it because on a lot of levels it doesn't make a lot of sense. But so what? That might be exactly what the team needed. And they got the right setting in the right city. They're looking for revenge, and the course is going to play right to them. So from that standpoint, I think it's a good thing. I really do. Emails when we come back. Now, as I tell you, Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com to send me some emails. Let's see what's on your mind today. We are heading towards the All-Star break, which to me doesn't excite, anybody. And the bottom line is, maybe you like the home run derby, although I think that's lost a little bit of its luster. Not a lot of sizzle in that game right now this year. That's why I think they needed Alonso. Needed somebody who was like a heavy favorite. Now they have him. And he's got the right guy throwing to him. So from that standpoint, he's, got everything back to where he can have a big performance, which I'm sure he will. So from that standpoint, you got a lot of trades to look forward to in baseball the rest of this month. Before you know it, that trade deadline jump on everybody. And there's a lot of teams that are in it because that's what the extra wild card provides. It keeps so many cities involved. It keeps everybody who has a decent record at least thinking it can get hot, make the playoffs, sneak in the back door, and then maybe get hot. And we've seen that happen. More than once we've seen it happen. So from that standpoint, that's why they believe it, because it happens. Happens a little more than you think. Now, so let me get to some emails here. As I said, Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. Paul ranked the top 3 Giant quarterbacks of all time. Well, there's 4 guys and you can take 3. The 3 I would take is Tittle, Eli, and Phil. That'd be it. It's not very hard. Roger, when healthy, is Aaron Judge stamping himself as one of the best players ever? Obviously, his health and history will take him out of the all-time rankings. Hey, he's having a terrific career. He's having a Hall of Fame career. He's had a couple of amazing seasons. He's also had years that he's been injured. Injuries are a problem for him. He's not young. So I don't think you have to look at all-time records and think they're going to be threatened. But, I mean, let's be honest. He's having a remarkable career, and let's see where it goes. Before you start talking about all-time, you have to do it. You know, if you want to be an immortal, you got to have a minimum of 10 really great seasons. What people would consider, wow, that's a good season. That's a good season. That's a really good season. That's a great season. You have 10 of those, you start being considered an all-time great. Also, in this day and age, where you spend a month, in the old days, you played 154 games, and then starting in the 60s, 162 games, and then you played a best-of-7 series. That's it. So there were times where somebody played 4 or 5 World Series games and maybe had a 1 for 12. If you look, Joe DiMaggio did. If you look, Babe Ruth had a bad series. If you look, Mickey Mantle, who holds almost all the World Series records. I mean, he holds the World Series records for home runs, RBIs, runs scored. From that standpoint, he had some bad series. I mean, he didn't hit against the Giants in 62. He didn't hit against the Dodgers in 63. He had a single. The Dodgers beat him in 4 straight. He had a single off Drysdale in Game 3. He had a home run off Koufax in Game 4. So he went like 2 for 13, something like that. He did hit 3 long balls in Game 2 against Johnny Padres that were caught. But the point is, no matter who it is, they can have a bad World Series. Ted Williams hit 250 in his 1 World Series appearance. So the regular season was the defining thing for all players. It wasn't the couple of games that were played in the World Series. But as the playoffs grew into a month of action and layers of postseason, and you can play, 20 games or more in the postseason in a given year. Well, that can be 90 at-bats in a given year. So you can define who you are in the postseason. And postseason play becomes a very big indicator of what your career is. Now you can't have that career without having the postseason. Very hard to do. Can it be done? It can be done because look at Trout. Trout has not played in the postseason, and he's still Trout because of how good his seasons were. But when you get there, you have to perform. Otherwise, it's really held against you. They don't hold it against you if you don't get there, but if you get there, you got to perform if you're a big player. So it does change things very much. Don, it feels like Lindor is a true check the back of the baseball card type of player, meaning his stats will always be there at the end of the season. I think that's true of most, star players or really good players. They're going to come most years within 10% of their, if you give them their career numbers, most years they're going to come within 10%. There'll be a down year based on an injury. There'll be a down year once. There'll be a year where they go over the top and have an outrageously high year. Like one year, maybe a home run hitter will hit 52 homers and he'll never get above 40 again. And one year he might hit 22 and never go below 28 or 29 again. So that stuff happens. But most years they're going to come very close to the numbers that you expect them. And Lindor got off to an incredibly bad start this year. And you look now, and he's got 16 homers. And I believe that Lindor is right now number 2 in the National League in extra base hits. Now think about that. With the start he had, he's number 2 in the National League in extra base hits. He's got 26 doubles and 16 homers. He's got 42 extra base hits already. I think that's number 2 in the National League. So that's impressive. 26 doubles. He's on a pace to get 40 doubles and 30 homers. Or 40 doubles and 28 homers. That's a lot of extra base hits. So, yes, he winds up close to those numbers, even though he got off to that really awful start. Sal, I'm not saying the Yankees need to fire Boone, but is there someone out there who makes more sense? Hey, when the team was going great, you never heard a word about the manager. Now that the team is cascading, it's all on Boone. Have I liked some of the moves Boone has made? No, but when you lose, you're always going to find reasons to blame the manager. Because it's the easiest thing to do. Why did he pitch to this guy? Well, if the pitcher had gotten that guy out, you wouldn't ask why he pitched to that guy. Okay? So if the other night Heel had struck out Devers, instead of giving up a home run, you would have said anything. You would have said, hey, Heel was really on his game tonight. Instead, why the heck did he leave him in the game? Now, I first guessed that one. I didn't want him to pitch to Devers in that spot. I was surprised he did. But it's always there to get on the manager. The one thing I will get on Boone about is this. I think he has been really lax in jumping on Yankees who have not hustled. I saw Torres not hustle in the Subway Series. I saw LeMahieu not busted out of the box, and he defended both guys. And maybe he felt during a losing streak I needed to do that. And he is a player's manager anyway, but I thought that was a little to the side of really bending over backwards for his players. To say that LeMahieu was hustling when he clearly wasn't. And then, of course, Torres had an injury, but he didn't come out of the game after he didn't hustle down the line. It's the next day he sat down, and he sat down because of a groin injury, supposedly. Listen, when you lose, it's always the manager's fault. When you win, you don't even notice the manager. I don't think Boone's the problem. Do I think the Yankees, if they don't win this year, will have a different manager? I think they probably will, based on the fact that the easiest thing to shake up a clubhouse is to get rid of the leader. Just change things for the sake of hearing a different voice. So the Yankees have now been very, very slow to get rid of people, which is obviously very different than it was in the day of George, who did change as he got older, but really early on he was insane with that stuff. Phil, when will it stop with the Giants wheeling out Daniel Jones? There's literally no chance they win anything with him at quarterback. Again, it's always blame the quarterback. Blame the coach, blame the quarterback. Do I think that Daniel Jones is an elite quarterback? No. Do I think he's a quarterback you could win with? Well, I think he can win a playoff series or he can get to the playoffs and win a playoff game with him. Could you win a Super Bowl with him? I think you'd have to have a really good team around him. And he has not had superior talent around him. He has not had a good offensive line. He has not had great wide receivers. He has not had personnel around him that would really lift his game. He has shown some very good talents. He has got good legs. He throws a good deep ball. He doesn't make the right decision all the time, and he is an ordinary intermediate thrower. I think he's okay. I don't think he's great. If you had better, you would play him. If you don't have better, you're going to play him. I think he's in the middle of the pack as a quarterback. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's good. I think he's in the middle of the pack. I think he's probably a notch above average. Notch. Like I said, he's not good. He's a notch above average. It's the best I can give you on him. But that, there are a lot of teams that have to play with a quarterback a notch above average because they don't have better than that. There aren't enough quarterbacks to go around. Not everybody's going to get a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. But the quarterback doesn't automatically win unless things get into place. Look at the Chargers. He can play quarterback on a very high level. He hasn't won because he has not been surrounded by the right coaching and at times not the right personnel, but really not the right coaching. Now he's got Harbaugh. I think you will see a very big leap in not only the Chargers' performance within 2 seasons, but the quarterback's performance to an elite level, to a very high level. And I think coaching can do that also. So talent isn't enough. It has to be surrounded by supporting cast and brain trust before everything clicks. Mahomes has Andy Reid. Andy Reid has Mahomes. But they also have been blessed with other players who are very talented, including the player who has been enormously important for them, and that's Chris Jones. People talk about Kelsey. They'll talk about, wide receivers. They'll talk about different players. Remember how good he's been, how dominant he has been in big spots. So when you have a game-breaking defender, a game-breaking quarterback, and a Hall of Fame coach, that's when the Super Bowls come in droves. Super Bowl appearances, Super Bowl victories. Send your emails to Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. We'll see you later.